Night StarCraft has had some great series so far. You definitely don't want to miss them.
All right, so it looks like the countdown has begun, and it will be Kaluas versus Rantak, Zerg versus Protoss here on Metalopolis, Relentless Heroes versus vVv Gaming in a best of seven King of the Hill style clan war. What Kaluas spawning as the blue Zerg and Rantek spawning as the red Protoss, and we do know that it will be no ally spawns. So, are you hoping to see a close air spawn or perhaps a cross spawn?
I kind of prefer a cross spawn in this matchup. We'll see what we get in just a few moments here. But the fact that there are no near spawns so very important in this matchup especially, it's really going to make it so the Protoss cannot pressure quite as much at the very start. Obviously, they can get up warp gate tech, so you can still bring 3 or 4 gate pressure with a proxy pylon, but it's really going to allow a Zerg player to expand a little bit more. And with these positions, with Rantek spawning as the red Protoss in the north, and then his challenger Kaluas spawning as the blue Zerg in the south, I think that both players are going to be able to get up an expansion and perhaps even a third pretty easily.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see whether Kaluas goes for a fast hatchery on the low ground, or if he goes for a spawning pool and extractor first. The spawning pool extractor does benefit Zerg in that they're able to get a little bit more map control and are also able to shut down any early probes that may try to pylon block the natural expansion. But then again, it's always nice to have additional larvae as we now see Rantek moving out with this red probe. It will be scouting out and it's going to run straight in. No, going to pass by the drone, and both players pretty much know where the other player already is. As now, oh, what is Rantek doing? Rantek deciding to scout out the 3 o'clock position first instead.
Yeah, not quite sure why. Rantek did send down one probe from his Nexus just to check for that scouting overlord where it could be if it wasn't coming from that 3 o'clock position. But now he's going to be extra safe, I guess, make sure that he's not there. And now he does know that Callus is in the southern position. And both players are going to get very early scouting information. This is a very fast scout coming from Zerg as well. Oftentimes, the Zerg scouts just a little bit later. Just a few moments before they have to make that decision, but we're going to see Zerg getting a lot of information here. It looks like he's going to try to place that drone, maybe with hold position, try to stop the wall off a little bit, but now he's on the move in the Protoss base. Both players going to have full view of both players' bases at this point.
Yeah, and what I think you missed was that Rantek was actually patrolling on the bottom side at the 6 o'clock position, and there was a drone just floating off to the north trying to come down the ramp and grow up and be a hatchery. Will it come down in time? No, it's not going to come down in time, as Kaluas is once again going to get delayed on his hatchery. There is our spawning pool already, but the probe just wandering around down over here, delaying this hatchery even further, and always nice when you're able to delay that additional expansion. Kaluas does have an extractor up, one of the few Zerg buildings that do not bleed when they're off of creep, so it's just going to sit there and sit on that gas for a little bit longer.
It looks like he's going to get a gas steal, so Protoss is going to be down to one gas in the early going here. We'll see whether he chooses. He's got a not quite a wall off here as well, so the first Zealot's going to be on its way over and trying to take down that extractor, but stealing that the gas there from Protoss really going to limit the options early on. He's not going to be able to open up with any sort of tech very quickly, and he's also going to have a very limited number of sentries if he tries some sort of 3 gate expand based around sentries. So right now, Zerg trying to get up his expansion a little bit late, having to go for pool first, but just working on his economy, and he has yet to put any drones on the extractor. Actually, looks like he pulled them off and starting Zergling speed at this point. So relatively even and normal opening from both players, I'd say.
Yeah, so what in comes the metabolic boost. The Zerglings are now going to make their way out. Both of them going to sit at a Zelnaga watchtower, one each, in order to gain some sight, most likely, as we are getting a wall off here. Now, Rantek does have a number of options. His gas was delayed, as you mentioned, so he's not going to get as many sentries. He will be forced to go for more gateways. I thought he may try to go for a fast expansion and then defend only using zealots, but that is not going to be the case, as we now see another drone making its way out, and it will be establishing up a third base, it looks like. So we are going to have a an expansion after an expansion right away. There you go, setting it up at the 4 o'clock location. And now Kaluas, if he is able to get up that expansion, he will have a very strong economic advantage moving on into the mid game.
Yeah, and I like that move, especially with the Protoss also looking to expand, and the Zerg is going to be 2 bases ahead for just a few moments here. as he will get up his third before the second goes up for Rantek. But that was an interesting decision by Cluis there to throw up that third almost without any scouting information. He actually put that up before his Zerglings made it up to the base of Rantek. So I guess he was just expecting the 3-gate expand based off the fact that Extractor was killed pretty quickly there. A lot of times Protoss will just let that sit there if they're going for some sort of warp gate play and some sort of early pressure, but Kaluas does feel like he is safe at the moment, and just a few sentries out with just a few zealots as well for Rantek. Can't really push out at this point, working on a Nexus and a Forge.
Yeah, we are also getting hallucination. So the hallucination will be the scouting mechanism for Rantek, and he will be able to scout out this hatchery pretty quickly. That's part of the normal flight pattern there. And then I think Rantek is just going to have his heart drop just a little bit. He is behind, or he will be behind in harvesters pretty quickly, as we are able to train up a lot of drones. You can see 3 spine crawlers now being built as well. So Kalu is making sure to not over drone too much, and then getting some base defense just in case those units do try to move out. The Nexus about to be completed here by Rantek, but the other hatchery already up and running, a queen already there to take care of it. And now at this point, I would say Kaluas needs almost a macro hatch, as he's going to have such a strong economy moving into this mid-game.
Yeah, and he has gotten up his Roach Warren, and it'll be interesting the tech paths that both players choose. Zerg now adding a second and third extractor, and Protoss hasn't really tipped his hand about what he's going to be going for here. Just working off the 3 gates and the 1 forge with no upgrades. He might be trying a little bit of pressure with these sentries. He's got 6 of them out. They've got quite a bit of stored energy, so he will have a number of force fields available to him, but he's just pushing out with very small numbers of units. He's got a Phoenix scouting out here. He will see the spine crawlers down, the 3 of them, and the third base. So he might be pushing into that third, but he's going to be greeted by 3 spine crawlers there as well.
Yeah, we also see an Overlord now, I guess, semi-suiciding its way in, trying to get as much information on the tech as possible. There are only 3 gateways now, and then finally going into a robotics facility. So really not much to scout out here. Kaluas doesn't have to worry about playing against anything too crazy, as there is now triple spine crawlers at the natural expansion. And those spine crawlers will be able to deter any of the sentry, stalker, zealot harassment that Rantek was hoping to do.
Yeah, and pushing out there, he's not going to be able to do any sort of early aggression, as the spine crawlers do shut that down, but he did force a few units, 5 roaches, and about 14 lings coming out. So up until that point, the Zerg had not made any offensive units besides the few lings at the start to scout. So he did force some larvae and resources to go towards an army now. So it's a little bit of a win. Now he's just going to pull back, and he might be getting up a bit of tech. Looks like a few observers coming out, and he's working on +1 weapons from the forge as well.
Yeah, we are upgrading to tier 2 and now getting evolution chambers by Kaluas. So Kaluas perhaps looking to go into perhaps a Spire in just a moment. He does have only 3 gas running right now, so this is a little bit strange. Double evolution chambers normally means a much stronger ground army. Roaches, Hydralisks, and Zerglings should be moving out. And Rantek now taking the opportunity to try to establish his third base. There are some Stalkers nearby. Zealots also going to be coming in. Level 1 weapons upgrade, about a third of the way completed. So as soon as the Zealots get that level 1 weapons upgrade, they should be able to slice through those units rather quickly, those Zerglings, without any armor upgrades. And now you can also see Rantek needs to get in additional gateways. But the strange thing is that Kaluas is sitting on 11 or almost 2,000 combined resources. He really needs to macro up.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to be spending those the easy way by throwing down a 4th and 5th hatchery. So he'll soon be on 5 bases. And when I said that I was excited about these positions because both players might be able to get up a second or third, I had no idea it would be going into hyper macro here. Both players just getting up tech buildings and using a lot of workers rather than army at the start, as we have the Zerg about to be on 5 base. If he's going to be able to hold this, I'm not sure the creep is spread to that 4th and 5th base quite yet. So he's going to need that to go down, as the roaches, I'm not sure, do have the speed upgrade yet. That's just started now. So it's going to be difficult to defend all these positions for the Zerg player. And right now it's 105 to 100, and Rantek soon to be on 3 bases, and Zerg soon to be on 5.
Yeah, this strategy by Kaluas isn't something that I've seen, but it is something that I have theory crafted, where you just power drone a lot, and then every once in a while you just stop. You just sacrifice some drones for some spine crawlers. Spine crawlers is a mobile defense unit that doesn't cost food, deals a lot of damage, and same thing with the spore crawlers, as we are now getting stalkers making their way out, sentries and stalkers trying to make their way down over here. But Rantek doesn't know. He does know about the 4th base, but he does not know about the 5th. as the Zerglings now perhaps going to try to run by into the base here and get some damage. They're going to run straight into the mineral patch at, I believe, the 10 o'clock location and deal a lot of easy damage there. No real way to walk back up the ramp. The probes being forced to hang around by the photon cannons instead.
Yeah, and he will lose a pylon or two there, Rantek, but he did force a lot of offensive units by pushing out once again. We've got 9 roaches and 11 hydras about to pop for Kalus, so he's not going to be able to drone up on that 4th and 5th base, and he's able to do a little bit of economic damage here, taking down a probe or two. But I think Rantek at that point, maybe he wanted to see what sort of army was coming out for Kalus. He does have an observer down, but Kalus hasn't really, I guess, committed to any sort of army. He's just got very few units, roaches and hydras at this point. We do have the first Colossus about to come out or being worked on for Rantek, and he's got extended thermal lance as well as some more Phoenix come out to do scouting for the Protoss player.
Now, Kalu is also going into a Nidus network, and this is something that we rarely ever see. So the Nidus network going to make this small map seem even smaller, and perhaps that's the way he wants to try to defend, using Nidus networks to be able to just pop units up wherever he needs them. He will need double Nidus worms, however, in order to try to unload all of those units rather quickly. The Nidus network only drops off units one at a time, and when they come out one at a time, they are not very swarmy, and then Protoss is able to just take down those units rather quickly. We are also going into the ventral sacks as well, so Kalu is getting almost every upgrade in the book that I can see, and now laying down some additional creep tumors.
Yeah, he was actually supply blocked there for a little bit as he's got 8 overlords. That's going to quickly take care of his supply block problem. So he's fallen behind a little bit in terms of army. And we do have the first Colossus out. Extended Thermal Lance about to finish here. The ground weapon level 2 has completed as well. Level 3 started for Protoss. And I think Rantek really needs to pick a timing here to push out and put some pressure on his opponent. 20 drones coming out for Kaluas. So he is just macroing very hard here. And Rantek, I'm not sure if he's making him pay for it like he needs to.
Yeah, Rantek not dealing any damage, and the longer this game goes, the longer the bank that Kaluas has, the worse it's going to be. There are also 3 Overseers, so he wants to make sure, or Kaluas wants to make sure that he has constant detection. That's one of the weaknesses of Zerg. If the Stalkers are able to shut down the Overseers, Dark Templars are able to just start slicing their way through until Infestors get lucky with a fungal growth. You can see Kaluas currently, his army is slightly smaller by about 500 resources, or 2,200 resources total between gas and minerals, but the food count fairly even.
Yeah, and if you look at the harvester count, it's 88 to 83, so pretty even there as well. But again, the Zerg is spread off of almost 5 bases. He's not quite mining off that 5th. He's throwing up 2 extractors, so he will be getting gas off of 5, it looks like, shortly. And Rantek just finishing his 4th now, protecting that with a bunch of cannons on that west side. And again, really needs to push out here and try to punish the Zerg for going so macro heavy. I'm not sure what tech he is waiting for, but he's getting up a Dark Shrine, getting up Psionic Storm out of that Templar Archive, and looks like he's going to be pushing out here with some sort of pressure. We'll see whether it's able to do the job.
Yeah, Rantek now moving in. Level 3 weapons upgrade almost completed. About another, 40 seconds or so, and we are getting some Nidus Worms now coming in, but those are going to get quickly destroyed there as... a couple Stalkers were able to warp back in. It looks like these Overseers are going to be forced to pull back, but in comes the battle. Fighting on creep, so difficult. But Kaluas really needs to get some Infestors if he really wants to deal any damage towards this Protoss ball. Rantek has so much damage potential with level 3 weapon upgraded ground forces, or will be level 3 weapon upgraded in 10 seconds, that the Zerg, when they try to get in, they may just simply fall apart and melt.
Yeah, and Kaluas at this point floating almost 5,000 minerals, 1,200 gas. He's maxed out, so at this point he just needs to start trading armies with Rantek. He's got a lot of Corruptors, as well as his Roaches and Hydras. He can easily take down this Colossus with the 9 Corruptors, and now we see him pushing up here. Some force fields going down for Rantek. Good force fields they are, and he's now able to do a lot of damage against these Roaches. The Hydras and Roaches having a difficult time engaging here behind those force fields, as Kaluas not microing very well. He had a number of paths open there, and Rantek able to do a decent amount of damage, but has to pull back just too many forces for Zerg.
Yeah, so once again, Rantek now pulling back with all those Stalkers and those Colossi. You can see we should be getting a heavy macro in play right now. Both players sitting on or both players sitting on over 3,000 resources total. The Zerg sitting on almost 8,000 resources, as Kaluas just has a lot of larva and should be able to train up an instant army and just spend all those minerals. He's currently just supply locked or supply blocked at 198, over 198. He could take a cue from some of the other Zerg players, try to build up a lot of drones or get a lot of drones and then morph them all into spine crawlers, freeing up 20 food, and then try to get 220 food over 200 as drones are now being transferred to the 2 o'clock starting location, as now stalkers are making their way out once more.
Yeah, I don't like the heavy investment for Kaluas in these corruptors. He's got 10 of them just for the two Colossi right now in this battle, and we see that Rantek has switched over to Archons, going to be very good. So trying to micro back and save these Colossus best that he can. But now we are off creep. The Roaches and Hydras trying to chase down this big ball of Protoss, and Rantek spreading out his units here, trying to get those Archons into the front. The Stalkers blinking into position as well, focusing down those Corruptors, and now we have 3 extra Colossi coming in, and they are definitely going to turn the tide of this battle. Another blink coming in, picking off the very slow Roaches and Hydras off creep, and now Rantek 200 against the 159 of Kaluas, and this might be going in Rantek's favor.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what Kaluas is doing. He is now building an additional 18 Corruptors. He doesn't have enough gas for mass Broodlords, which would the only thing that those Corruptors can transform into. We are getting the Zerg ground level 3 armor upgrades, as well as the Colossi just going to slice their way through all of these spine crawlers. The Corruptors now making their way out and will be able to just shut down many of those Colossi there. And you can see unit after unit falling, but there's so many Stalkers on the ground as well that once the Corruptors finish off the Colossi, those Corruptors have nowhere to run and they can't really do anything at all.
Yeah, now he needs to get these Archons up to do some splash damage against the Lings coming out for Callus. He's coming out with another 40 Lings and 12 Roaches, and this is a very difficult position for the Zerg as he's got all these units coming off of different bases, different hatcheries. They're going to be streaming in just a few at a time, and that's very tough to take on this heavy Stalker and Archon ball. He's got to try to get all of his units together and attack all at once, as we see the Zerglings trying to do a little bit of damage, but taking so many shots from those Stalkers, doing nice blink back with these Stalkers as they do get low. And now Callus is in a lot of trouble, 182 to 123. He's about to lose his natural. He could be losing some tech buildings if Rantek chooses to move up into the main. But we see a little bit of a counter against the gold of Rantek and the GG coming from Callus in game 1.
Yeah, so a very impressive game and a really impressive showing by Rantek taking game 1. I had thought that he was really behind the 8 ball as Kaluas was able to just macro up so quickly. But Kaluas never able to just get a lot of damage dealt with his large army and was never really able to replenish it. He got a lot of Corruptors, but once he invested so heavily into Corruptors, 18 Corruptors at one point, the Corruptors finished off the Colossi and then there was nothing they could do.
Yeah, he was definitely late on that Greater Spire. I think he was waiting for an upgrade to finish off that Spire before starting the Greater Spire, but he was a few minutes behind. If he had 5 or 6 Broodlords in that encounter, would have been much more difficult. And the Roaches and Hydras very good with Broodlord support. Has to be a little bit critical. I know it was the first game, and both these players might be the maybe the weakest link. I know Rantek coming up from the Academy team, pretty impressive there in the late game, but both players floating a lot of minerals and kind of getting into that game where neither player wants to be aggressive just because they're not sure whether they can win at that point. But hopefully we're not floating that many minerals in games to come here. But so far, Rantek, pretty impressive for his first game of Wednesday Night StarCraft, and we'll see what he has in store for us in this second game.
All right, so yeah, stay tuned for game 2 coming up right now.